I found his last letter 3 weeks after the funeral, tucked inside the lining of a coat I hadn't touched in 11 years. 1 page. 12 sentences. He had written it in pencil, which meant he had written it carefully. Pencil was how he handled things he wasn't sure he had the right to say. He never sent it. I read it standing in the hallway with my coat still on, and I understood in about 40 seconds what I had spent 53 years refusing to understand. I am 84 years old. I have been a department head, a published researcher, a woman whom other women pointed to as proof that it could be done. I built a career from nothing in an era when the word ambition, attached to a woman, was not a compliment. I am proud of that. I want to be clear about that. I am not here to apologize for working hard or for wanting things. What I am here to tell you is the specific, surgical way that pride can hollow out everything standing next to it, so quietly you don't hear a sound until it's over. I stayed married to the same man for 51 years. We raised 2 children in a house with a yellow door that I chose and he painted. He made coffee every morning, not for himself. He didn't drink it just for me. 51 years of coffee he never tasted, made for a woman who was usually already halfway out the door. If you are reading this and you are somewhere between 40 and 60, working hard, building something, telling yourself there will be time later, I need you to stay with me. Because I was you. And I know exactly where that sentence ends. The marriage didn't break. That's what makes it so difficult to explain, even now. There was no affair, no screaming, no single night where everything shattered and we stood in the wreckage knowing it was over. That would have been easier, in a way. Easier to point to. Easier to grieve. What happened instead was quieter and far more permanent. It was a Tuesday in October of 1987. I remember the month because the department review was in 2 weeks and I had been sleeping 4 hours a night and surviving on the particular kind of adrenaline that ambitious people learn to mistake for living. Edmund came into the kitchen at 7:30. He had made the coffee. He had set out my cup on the left side of the saucer the way I liked it, handle angled toward the window. He stood in the doorway in his gray cardigan and he said, I thought maybe this weekend we could drive up to the lake. The one we went to before Anna was born. Do you remember it? I remember I didn't look up from my papers. I said, I can't this weekend, Ed. The review. He said, right. Just that. Right. And he went back to the kitchen and I heard him rinse his own glass and set it in the rack, and the sound was so ordinary, so familiar, that I turned back to my papers without another thought. I did not go to the lake that weekend. I did not go the next weekend either. I did not go to that lake with Edmund again, ever, because there was always something: a review, a conference, a paper, a meeting that could not be moved, and after a certain point he stopped asking. I told myself that was practical. That we had understood each other, that a strong marriage doesn't need constant tending, that love between adults is not a thing that requires performance. I was wrong about that in a way I cannot fully put into words even now, 40 years later. What I didn't see, what I was incapable of seeing from inside the life I had constructed, was what Edmund's face looked like in that moment of right. I didn't see it because I was looking. I was never looking. I was always looking at something else, something with a deadline, something that needed me in a way that felt urgent and measurable and real. Edmund never had a deadline. Edmund never sent a memo when he needed me. Edmund just stood in doorways in his gray cardigan and waited, and I walked past him for 50 years and called it a marriage. The outside of our life looked fine. More than fine. We went to dinners. We laughed at the same things. We sat side by side at our daughter's wedding and people told us we were a lovely couple, and I believed them because I wanted to and because it was easier than asking what lovely actually meant. From the outside we looked like 2 people sharing a life. We were sharing a house. There is a difference. I know that now. I knew it then too. Somewhere beneath all the noise I kept myself surrounded with, I knew it the way you know about a slow leak. The way you think I should look at that and then don't. For months, until one morning you come downstairs and the floor has given way. In 1991 Edmund retired. He was 62. He had worked as a surveyor for 34 years and he left quietly, without a party, because that was his way. He didn't like rooms full of people looking at him. I was 47 and at the absolute peak of what I had been building. The university had just offered me a chair position. I came home that evening with a bottle of wine I had bought to celebrate, and Edmund was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, reading, and I told him the news and he smiled and said, "That's wonderful, Margaret," and poured me a glass, and that was the celebration. He was home every day after that. And I was not. I want you to understand what that meant in practical terms. Edmund was in that house, our house, alone, for an average of 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, for the next 11 years until I retired. I calculated it once, years later, sitting in this chair with nothing but time. 9 hours. 5 days. 11 years. That is roughly 25,000 hours that Edmund spent in rooms I had filled with furniture and left. He gardened. He learned to make proper bread, with a crust that you had to press to know if it was ready. He drove to the coast on Wednesdays because he liked the light there in the morning. He built a life inside the gap I had left, the way water finds its level, quietly and without complaint. And I told myself that meant he was fine, that independence was healthy, that we were modern people who did not need to be attached at the hip. What I told myself, in other words, was a story designed to require nothing of me. In 2001, our son Daniel came to visit for a week in August. On the third evening, after Edmund had gone to bed early, he had started going to bed early by then, said he slept better. Daniel and I sat on the back step with a bottle of wine and he said, carefully, the way adult children say things they have rehearsed, "Mom, does Dad seem all right to you?" I said, "Of course." "Why?" He looked at me for a moment, then he looked away, at the garden, at the roses Edmund had been growing for 6 years that I could not have named the color of. "No reason," he said. "Just asking." I let that go. I put it in the same place I put the lake, and the gray cardigan, and the sound of a glass being set in a rack on a Tuesday morning in October. I had a drawer inside myself where I put things I was not ready to look at, and I had been filling it for decades, and I was very good at keeping it shut. In 2003 I retired. I was 59. I came home on my last day with my box of things from the office and I set it on the kitchen table and Edmund made coffee still. After all of it, he made me coffee and we sat across from each other and I thought, now there will be time. Now I will learn what color those roses are. Now I will drive to the coast on a Wednesday and find out what the light looks like. Edmund was 74 by then. We had 11 years left together and I did not know it. I thought we had the rest of everything. In the spring of 2009 Edmund had a small stroke. The doctors called him minor. He came home after 4 days with a list of medications and a slight drag in his left foot that never fully went away. He was slower after that. Quieter, though I hadn't thought that possible. He stopped driving to the coast. I became, for the first time in our marriage, present. I was there in the mornings. I made the coffee badly. He never said so, but I saw him look at the cup the way you look at something that is almost right. I sat with him in the garden. I learned, finally, that the roses were deep coral color, almost red in certain light, and that he had planted them the year Daniel was born because he had wanted something in the garden that would last. I learned that he had a specific way of checking the bread, a tap on the bottom of the loaf, listening for a hollow sound that he had never taught me because I had never been in the kitchen long enough to ask. We had, in those years between the stroke and the end, something that I can only describe as a second marriage. Quieter than the first. More careful. We watched films in the evening. We played cards. He told me once, on a night in November when the rain was very loud against the windows, that he had been happy. That he wanted me to know that. I was happy, Margaret, he said. I want you to know I was happy. Past tense. I heard it. I heard the tense he chose and something moved through me that I did not have a name for. Something cold and clarifying. And I almost said something. I was close. I was right at the edge of it. The question I had been not asking for 50 years, but the rain got louder and Edmund picked up his cards and the moment closed. He died 14 months later. A Tuesday. Of course it was a Tuesday. I sat beside him in the hospital for the last 6 hours and I held his hand and I talked to him the way you talk to someone when you are no longer worried about saying the wrong thing because there is nothing left to lose. I told him about the lake. I told him I remembered it. I told him the exact color of the water that weekend before Anna was born, green-gray, very still, with a smell of pine and cold because I had never forgotten it, not once, in all the years I had pretended I was too busy for it. I don't know if he heard me. I have to live with not knowing. Here is what I have named it, after years of sitting with it. Not neglect. Not selfishness. Not ambition. Ambition is not the villain here, and I will not let it be. What I did has a simpler, uglier name. I treated my marriage like a pension. I paid into it minimally. Consistently, just enough to feel responsible, and I told myself it would be there when I was ready to collect. I believed without ever stating it, without ever holding it up to the light, that love was a thing that accumulated on its own, that a good enough foundation meant you could build on top of it forever without checking whether the ground was still holding. That Edmund, because he was steady and quiet and never sent memos, would simply continue. Would wait. Would be there, in his gray cardigan, whenever I finally decided to turn around. He was. Until he wasn't. The tool I want to give you is not a philosophy. It is a single question. One question, and I want you to ask it tonight, not next week, not when things slow down. Tonight, about the person in your life who is most like Edmund was. The person who makes the coffee. The person who suggests the lake. The person who says right when you say no and goes back to the kitchen without a word. The question is this: when did they stop asking? Not whether they seem fine. Not whether the marriage is good or the friendship is solid or the relationship is stable. When did they stop asking? Because the moment a person who loves you stops making requests of you is not the moment they became independent or low maintenance or mature. It is the moment they finished grieving the version of you they had hoped for and made their peace with the version they got. Edmund made his peace with me sometime in the late 1980s. He loved me anyway. That is the thing that endears me most. Even now he loved me anyway, all the way to the end, with the full knowledge of what I had and had not given him. He did not leave. He did not punish. He grew roses and made bread and drove to the coast alone on Wednesday mornings, and he loved me with everything that was left over from the life I had declined to share with him. That is not a love story. That is a warning dressed in the clothes of a love story. And now I want to speak to you directly, because I know who is reading this. You are not cruel. You are not cold. You are busy, and you are building something, and you are telling yourself that the people who matter most understand that they know you love them, that they can see it in the practical ways you show up, that love does not always have to be spoken or demonstrated or driven to a lake on a Saturday afternoon. You are telling yourself that there will be time. I told myself that for 53 years. I was educated. I was capable of complex thought. I could hold an entire research department in my head and manage 17 people and anticipate problems before they arrived, and I could not see what was happening 4 feet away in my own kitchen on a Tuesday morning. That is not stupidity. That is choice. Every single day, it was a choice. The excuse I hear most often, the one I used myself, the one that feels most reasonable from the inside, is this: they know I love them. I don't need to perform it. Edmund knew. I'm certain he knew, and he still wrote a letter in pencil that he never sent. He still stood in that doorway in 1987 and asked about the lake. He still said I was happy in a past tense that he chose deliberately, carefully, the way he chose everything, because Edmund was always precise, and I was always too busy to notice. Knowing is not the same as feeling it. You can know the sun exists and still be cold. The coat is still hanging in the hallway. I have not moved it. The letter is in the inside pocket where I found it. 12 sentences in pencil. I have read it many times now, enough that I could write it from memory, enough that I hear it in his voice. That particular quiet of his, the voice of a man who chose words the way he chose everything else, slowly and without waste. He did not write that he was lonely. He did not write that I had failed him. He wrote about the lake. He wrote that he had been thinking about that weekend, before Anna was born, the green-gray water and the smell of pine, and that he had always meant to go back and never quite managed it, and that he wondered sometimes if I remembered it the way he did. He wondered if I remembered. I remembered every detail. I had always remembered. I simply never said so. That is the whole of it, in the end. Not the career, not the hours, not the 25,000 mornings. Just that a woman who remembered the color of the water and never once thought to say so to the man who needed to hear it. A woman who assumed that love, because it was real, was also visible. That it transmitted through walls. That it did not require her to open her mouth and let it out. The coffee cup is still on the left side of the saucer. Handle toward the window. I make it that way out of habit now for myself, alone, every morning. I don't know why. Maybe because it is the only way I know how. Maybe because some part of me is still practicing, still learning a language I spent 50 years refusing to speak, even though the only person who wanted to hear it is gone. You still have time. I did not.